And first of all, thank everyone for logging in and thank those who will watch us at a later date because we're going to record and publish this. Karen in the city is also going to post this talk as well. And my name is Ed Cunningham. I'm the president of the Tropical Forest and Botanical Garden Board of Directors. And our speaker today, part of our monthly speaker series this month, is Karen DiMaria. She is the urban forest manager for the city of Key West. She's been in this position for 8 years. Prior to working with the city, she was an environmental consultant and marine biologist working for various engineering firms on projects throughout the Keys and the Caribbean and Florida and Monroe County. And she's done fisheries research as part of grants and worked on several state and federal projects and organizations. Karen has been a resident of the Keys for 30 years, has degrees in biology and marine biology, is a certified arborist, and from my personal experience, she knows a lot about trees. And just a little advertisement for our next speaker for next month. He will be at the garden and we will record this as well. His name is Ivan Torres and he's going to talk about Cuban chugs because he came across on one of the chugs we have on display there. So we look forward to that on Saturday, February the 20th. So Karen, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Are we there? Okay. It still likes you, Ed. Hello, my name is Karen DiMaria. I'm the urban forestry manager for the city of Key West. I'm going to share my screen because I have a presentation that I would like to, Karen needs to undisable the screen sharing. So once I'm allowed to share the screen, I'll share the screen. I have a presentation that I've created. It's sort of a take on an ambassador presentation that I give. I don't know if anyone knows about the ambassador program that the city does. It's really a great program. You apply to be part of the program and it educates you about the different departments in the city. So what I'm doing is hopefully updating some of the information regarding the tree commission, tree ordinances, and programs that we have going on here in the city of Key West. Karen's still not back and I can't share my screen. So
I'm working on it. Hold on.
Okay, there she is. Oh, and just, I guess, we're waiting just if anyone needs to get a hold of me regarding any questions regarding the trees in the city of Key West. My phone number is 305-809-3768, or you can email me at kdmaria@cityofkeywest-fl.gov. Usually email is the best way to get a hold of me. So this way, because I can answer it whether I'm in the field or if I'm at home that day. But generally, I do respond fairly quickly to emails. And I do respond to phones in a couple of days.
Sorry about that. You're all set.
There we go. Okay. So let me just get this set up. All righty, here we are. So City of Key West Urban Forestry and the tree ordinance. This is an update. The tree ordinance. The City of Key West has had an active tree ordinance for at least since the early 90s. So it's been around for a long time. To begin with, permits are required to remove trees, transplant trees, and to do major maintenance trimming. With the recent state law that was enacted in July of 2019, some people think that that abolished the tree commission and that permits are not needed anymore to cut down trees. That is incorrect. You still need a permit to cut down trees. So basically, the tree ordinance. The purpose and intent, and I'm going to read this from the code because some people think it's to protect every single tree. Yes, but this is the purpose and intent of the tree ordinance. The city commission finds that trees on privately and publicly owned property within the city are economic and aesthetic assets to the citizens of the city because of their important and meaningful contribution to a healthy, beautiful, and safer community, attributable to their carbon dioxide absorption, oxygen production, dust filtration, wind and noise reduction, soil erosion prevention, and surface drainage improvements. Therefore, the health and economic welfare of the citizens can be served through protection of the health and growth of the trees and through encouragement of additional tree plantings. The City Commission further finds that this public purpose can best be achieved through a city agency having authority and responsibility to accomplish these goals. That agency is the Urban Forestry Division and the Tree Commission, of which I am a part of. Okay, the city has had an active tree ordinance for a while. Current regulations that we are working under were established in 1997. The latest update occurred in January 2019. And for those interested, the actual tree ordinance, which I like to call the Bible for the Tree Commission, can be found in section 110 of the city code from 251 to 436. In essence, it says permits are required. This is one of the sections. Permits are required if you are going to remove a tree that is protected or regulated, or a palm that is protected or regulated, if you are going to do heavy maintenance of a tree, or if you're going to transplant the tree. So first of all, people they'll call me up and ask me, well, how do I know if my tree is on the regulated protected tree list? Well, if you go into the city code under section 110-253, there is a list of specially protected trees. That list predominantly are all the native trees found in the lower Keys and a lot of the indigenous trees to Key West, like Royal Poinciana, Sapodilla, Spanish lime. Those trees are not native to the Keys, but they are part of Key West. They are indigenous. They have been here forever. In fact, some of the oldest trees in the city are the Sapodillas, the Spanish limes. Those are definitely the oldest species of trees that we have. So I always tell people, first we go look at the protected tree list. If that species of tree that you have on your property that you want to cut down is not on that list, then you go to the not protected tree list. The not protected tree list has a bunch of trees listed on there. Some of those trees have an asterisk next to their name. That asterisk basically means if that tree is greater than 24 inches diameter, you need a permit to remove it. And that would be trees such as woman's tongue, pink tababua, almond tree, trees that we have a lot of in this city. They're invasive trees, but when they're large tree that size, that's significant canopy. So we want to make sure that we regulate their removal so that we can have replacements planted. So if that species is not on either list, now for palms, protected palms are coconut palms, sable palm, royal palm, and the thatch palms. So if you want to remove something that's not on either list, then you go to, with palm trees, is that palm tree greater than 10 feet tall from ground to heart? Then you need a permit. Or is it a dicot canopy tree or a tree with leaves greater than 4 inches diameter? Then you need a permit. So as I said, some of the lists on the protected tree lists, I've mentioned those before. On the not protected tree list, basically are your class 1 and class 2 invasive, state invasive species, Brazilian pepper, Ficus benjamina, seaside mayho, lead tree. Special consideration, which means those trees over 24 inches diameter, I've already named most of them. And then examples of trees, of dicot trees that are greater than 4 inches diameter that are not on either list would be like the frangipani, sandbox, silk fox, bottle brush. So if you've got a 3-inch bottle brush tree on your property and you want to cut it down, you do not need a permit to remove it. If it's over 4 inches, you do. Palms that are not on the list that require a permit to remove, they're greater than 10 feet tall, would be Christmas palms, Alexander palms, date palms, to name a few. So permitting procedures. Basically, the property owner must submit an application to my office and we review it. The application must be signed by the property owner. If the property owner is not going to be picking up the permit, or that application requires that it goes to the tree commission, then an authorization form needs to be signed and notarized by the property owner so that I can hand that permit to somebody else, or that somebody else can speak on their behalf. Some people think it's kind of weird that we have required to be a notarized form, but in the past, we did have a gentleman who submitted a form to cut down a palm tree and forged the property owner's signature. And then he cut down the palm tree. It fell across some electrical and utility lines, tore out all the lines. And then the electrical company went after the property owner to get reimbursement for having to do the repairs. And it ended up being a big snafu. So now, in order to make sure we have a signed and notarized form. So once I review the application, I do a site visit. When I do the site visit, I determine, which procedure it's going to go, whether it's going to be a staff approval process or if it's going to be something that's sent to the tree commission. Tree commission meets once a month, usually the second Tuesday of the month. Every now and then our meetings are on a Monday because the school board takes over the chambers. Whenever a removal permit for a palm or tree is issued, replacements are required. That's something that most people forget about. So there's a whole procedure that goes through. Go in here a little bit more so I can talk about. So staff approvals. Staff approvals are all palm tree removals, all palm tree transplants. All dicot tree transplants are staff approvals. All major trimming applications are staff approval, and emergency permit processes are staff approvals. Okay, so then I want to go back here. So if I process a permit, say I'm going to process a permit for a transplant. Transplanting a tree requires that the tree survive 1 year after the date that it's been documented that the work has been completed. So that person will make an application, they'll get a permit to transplant a tree. Once it's transplanted, I go out and inspect it, it's been done, then the clock starts. That permit can be closed 1 year after the date that it's been transplanted. If that tree survives the transplantation, we're done. If the tree dies, then the permit requires that that tree be replaced on the property like for like. So same species and same size tree. If I issue a palm removal permit, the required replacements on the property for palm removals is that if you cut down one palm, you must plant one native palm 4 feet tall anywhere on the property. Attached to the permit will be a job completion form and an approved palm list that we give to the people so they can see, what species we allow or what is considered appropriate for replacements. Once that palm has been planted, the property owner submits the job completion form. It has a little map on it that shows me where the palm was planted. I go out, do an inspection, and then I close the permit if everything looks good. Dicot trees, when it goes to the tree commission for approval, if it is approved for removal, the requirement for replacements is based on the diameter of the tree times the value of the tree. Value is the location of the tree on the property, the condition of the tree, is it healthy or not, and its species. I have a little ratio that I use. So basically each one of these 3 characteristics has a ratio from 10 to 100%. And then I divide by 3 to get the average value. So you could have a 10-inch diameter tree with a 50% value. Therefore, you're going to be required to replant 5 inches of tree on your property. Again, we have an approved tree list that's 3 pages long and includes most flowering trees that are common in Key West, most fruit trees that are common in Key West, and also includes all the native trees and a lot of common Caribbean tree species. Again, all trees that are not invasive and have a known history for doing well in the city of Key West. And as a side note, both the approved palm list and approved tree replacement lists are reviewed every so often. If people they see a species of tree that's been doing well in the city and they would like to have it included on the list, the tree commission reviews that and either accepts it or not. So that those lists we are always updating to make sure that we have a good representative of trees that should be planted and should grow and do well here in the city. Sometimes people don't want to plant on their property. The city code does allow 3 ways of closing out your tree permit. One would be to, of course, our preference is that you plant the trees on your property. If you don't do that, option is that you can purchase trees and donate them to a nonprofit organization, including the city or any school and or church. I always tell the people you must contact that organization first, ask them what they would like to have, and then work with them to have the trees purchased and delivered to their location. Once the trees are planted in the ground and I inspect the trees, then the file is closed. The third option is that a person can pay a fee into the city tree fund. If you remove a palm and your replacement requires that you plant 1 native palm on your property, that equates to $250. Die-cut trees, it's based by per inch. So $200 per inch for a regular normal die-cut trees. But if you removed a Royal Poinciana tree, then it's $225 per inch that you will pay. So if you have to replant 2 inches of trees on your property, then it would be 200 times 2. So $400 would be the payment required to close that permit. And then if people ask us, where does that amount come from? Well, that fee amount is based on the cost of the tree or the cost of a palm, plus the cost for me to drive up to a nursery, pick it out, put it in the car, drive it home, dig the hole, plant the tree, and water it. So we evaluate this every couple of years to see if we need to adjust our numbers based on what the market is. One of the keynotes is that yes, tree permits are just like building permits. They stay open on a piece of property until they're closed. And I don't just assume that they're closed. I have to be notified in writing, either by email or a job completion form mailed in that says, yes, we did the work, or the work is complete, or I did the plantings, please come and inspect them. Once I've inspected them, inspected the property, then I close out the permit and I send a letter to the property owners. So that's one thing that always remember. Luckily, we have a really good relationship with most of the realtors. And then since 2014, when the entire tree database went digital, we are able to really see what permits are open on properties, which is very helpful to the realtors when they're doing due diligence. Recently, within the spring of 2020, probably one of the benefits of the whole COVID pandemic is that we were able to get all of our old open tree permits and enforcement cases logged into the Track It permit system, which is what the building department uses to track permits. We are able to include all of our older permits into that system now. So people who are registered on the City of Key West Track It system can go online and see what permits are open on their property. And that does include tree enforcement cases and tree permits. But if anyone ever has any questions, feel free to call me or email me, and then I'll look through our Excel database and determine if there's anything open on their properties. So we touched upon this, staff approvals, tree commission. And you heard me talk about mainly what I do as far as the urban forestry manager. Well, the next part of it, which is a very vital part of the tree ordinance, is the tree commission, which meets once a month. In the past, there's been talk about, oh, we should get rid of the tree commission. We should abolish it. What are they doing? Well, the tree commission was established by state legislation back in the 1970s. So in order to get rid of the tree commission, you have to have state legislation that says so. About 2 years ago, there was state legislation that was trying to abolish all tree commissions within the state of Florida. That thankfully did not go through, but I always like to point out to people that this is not a locally created board, even though it was Mary Lee McCoy and a group of other ladies from the Women's Club who initiated the talk and went up to Tallahassee and got legislation made to create the board. Right now, there are 7 members of the Tree Commission. They are all volunteers. They are appointed one by each city commissioner and the mayor. The Tree Commission, again, meets once a month. They review all of the applications for die-cut tree removals. They also review landscape plans for development projects, which are usually your large multifamily home projects or commercial development projects. So the tree commission is tasked with reviewing the conceptual and final landscape plans. And then they also review administrative hearings for enforcement cases related to tree abuse and unauthorized tree removals. So that's something that does keep us pretty busy. Now here is a list of our tree commissioners. People who are involved with the Garden Club will notice a couple of names on this list. But it's a good board that represents a mixture of the community, and I think that's what's important. Some people do have vast knowledge of trees and vegetation and landscaping, some don't. Again, you want to have, it's like people that are part of the population that represent everyday people are part of our board. And we seem to work well together. Lively discussions. All right, so a big part of our what we do is our enforcement cases, which is under section 110-256, tree abuse. So tree abuse is any act that harms a tree. It goes to where somebody has driven across the roots, damaged the root system, has cut the root system, has driven a truck into the trunk of the tree. So this, you can see kind of a lot of this has to do with construction work when people are doing construction on properties. So you see this kind of impacts and damage. So that's what this tends to go for. Excuse me. Cutting upon a tree, which reduces the function of the tree or causes it to go into shock or destroys its natural shape, or bark has been removed. You can see below in these photos, there's a picture on the right. That is a photo of a tree that has been hat wracked. Hat rack is where you remove all the minor branches and you just leave the main branches to stubs. That is a horrible way to trim a tree. Everywhere you've done those cuts, you are now going to have 10 new branches sprout out from those. You have ruined the structural integrity of the tree. Tropical trees don't like this kind of trimming at all. I know I see it up north, people doing this, and you shouldn't do it. It's just horrible. On the left, you'll see a photo. This is from Home Depot years and years ago. Very common, especially with a lot of these landscape companies that come in from the mainland, is to trim shape the trees. That is not a natural shape of a tree to turn it into a lollipop. In fact, trees that are shaped like this are more prone to going over in hurricanes and windstorms, because what you've now created is a solid ball. So when that wind hits it, it's going to go over because it can't breathe. A natural shape of a tree allows the tree to breathe. You know, you don't want a lion tail either. Lion tail is where you remove all the minor branches on a tree trunk and only leave what's growing out on the end. That is horrible too, because then when you get a storm, that branch goes all over the place because all that weight's on the end and there's nothing to help buffer it on the interior. So these are things that we look at for tree abuse. A lot of times, again, construction on a piece of property is usually the number one type of abuse that I have to deal with. And then there's also where we have tree removals because people have cut down trees without permits. And when we talk about construction, I do review probably 80% of all building permits that go through the system. And that is a key thing that I look for. And probably 70% of the permits that I review, I put a condition on it that no impacts are authorized to occur to any trees or palms, including their roots or canopy branches. Tree protection must be used. So this is something, a standard that I put on lots of regular building permits because of the construction work that's going on. Also in our code is the requirement that people are required to trim trees properly, especially if you're located on a sidewalk or roadway area. If you own a tree that overhangs onto the sidewalk or overhangs onto a city street, you are required by city code to maintain that tree so that there are no impacts to the traffic lights or views. Federal laws and ADA laws require certain amount of access over streets and sidewalks. I think it's 8 feet over a sidewalk. You must have vertical clearance. And then over the road, it's 14 feet right of way and roadway. A lot of times I get phone calls from people who say, I trimmed my side of the tree, you need to trim, the city needs to come by and trim their side of the tree. No, that tree comes out of the ground on your property. You are responsible for trimming that tree 360 degrees. The city will not come out and trim your tree. The only time the city will do that is if there's an emergency and your tree branches are impacting traffic lights or stop signs. Then we will go out there and cut only that section that is causing the issue. And then usually I will follow up and ask you to please trim your tree properly. When it comes to palm trees, there is in a city ordinance the requirement of the proper way to trim a palm tree. And it says all palm tree species, not just certain species. So all palm trees, you are not supposed to remove any live fronds above the horizontal plane, which is 9:3. So straight 9:3. Anything alive that's hanging downward can be cut, but you cannot cut anything growing above that plane. That's what we have in our city ordinance. That includes sable palms. Sable palms, like you see in this picture in the center here on our screen, you never trim a sable palm like that unless you're going to transplant that palm. Sable palms like to have a full head. The only leaves or fronds that you're should even remove are the dead and brown ones that are hanging really low and creating the skirt or the beard on it. Thatch palms, the same thing. You only remove that is brown. They like to have a full head. Royal palms, Christmas palms, Alexander palms, they should never have their fronds removed. You should wait till they kind of start sloughing off when they start to separate from the main heart. Once that happens, then you can take that down, especially if it's a royal palm that's really tall, then you might want to go ahead and remove that whole sheath and frond once it starts to separate so it doesn't fall. But I see so many of these companies that are actually trimming these fronds, and you don't do that. That does not help the palm tree. And again, one of my main purposes is to ensure the health, of these trees and the safety of people. So one of the things in the last couple of years is sort of the bane of my existence right now is the state law that went into effect in July of 2019. The state law basically says a local government may not require a notice, application, approval, permit fee, or mitigation for the pruning, trimming, or removal of a tree on residential property if the property owner obtains documentation from a certified arborist or a Florida licensed landscape architect that the tree presents a danger to persons or property. What people tend to forget is that you have to have a certified arborist or a licensed architect, landscape architect, document that tree is a danger. Then, if that's the case, you do not require a permit from my office, and I cannot require you to turn a permit in. But I can ask you for a copy of that documentation for my file. And if you don't have that documentation, we will process an enforcement case. There is an issue right now because there is a company that doesn't feel that their property owners need to show me the documentation. Well, that's fine. Then they can show it to the tree commission. This law right now, there is a bill that has been submitted to the state legislature a couple of weeks ago to a representative and a senator from the Orlando area. Both have submitted companion bills to repeal this bill, which I'm very hopeful for. Right now it's in committee, and I guess the key thing here is that if you are in agreement that this bill is wrong, then please contact your representatives, your senators, or anybody that you know that's part of the legislature up in Tallahassee, and impress upon them how important it is that this bill get repealed. Why should it be repealed? Well, primarily because we are seeing a lot of healthy large trees being cut down for no reason except that they are in the way of development or they're messy. Because you see, danger is not defined in this way this bill is written right here. Danger is not defined. Danger could be that you could possibly slip on a leaf that comes from that tree. You are allergic to the fruit on that tree. Danger could be almost anything. There is no definition. Even though ISA, which is the International Society of Arboriculture, has what they feel is what a danger is based on the risk assessment of a tree, based on the true health and condition of a tree. But this law passed in July 2019 does not have the definition. So I know from personal experiences, processing the permits and chasing after some of these removed trees that some of them are being removed because the property owner didn't want the tree there anymore. And this law was a great way for them to get rid of the tree so they can build their pool, or, that's just, I've spent so much money having to maintain the leaves that fall over my yard. So we're seeing that, and that's sad. The city, we are very reasonable when it comes to processing permits, even the tree commission, we're very reasonable. If a tree is truly a danger and has like major condition issues, structural conditions, health conditions like full of termites, especially subterranean that have eaten out the root system, it's loaded, it's got a lean to it. We do process emergency permits, which is a staff approval process. Since this law has come into effect, I actually have processed more emergency permits than I have in previous years, primarily because I'm sort of being, I guess, held over a barrel, I guess it's the term called. Because I know if I don't process an emergency permit, and at least with an emergency permit, I get one tree replacement, sometimes two, depending on how big the tree is. If I don't process an emergency permit, then that tree is going to be declared a danger by an arborist, and I get nothing. So I have to weigh what's the best thing to do. So luckily, of the 10 arborists that routinely work here in the city of Key West, 9 of the 10 work with me in my office. If they have a tree that they're going to declare a danger on, we will meet at the site, we will discuss it, and they usually encourage the property owner to submit an application. And then we process an emergency permit. This way, I at least get one tree planted for that one that is being removed. Otherwise, we get nothing. The one company that does not talk to me or work with me, it's a shame and it's really sad, but hopefully their day will come. So that's kind of talking about the tree law and its impacts. Yes, I have seen a significant rise in tree removals, big tree removals. I actually also have a property right now where the property owner went in and under this danger law, totally cleared out the property of probably 15 subcanopy trees, a couple palms and a tree under the state law, claiming they were a danger, and they weren't. There's nothing wrong with them. He just didn't want them there. And that's sad. That is very, very sad. So now, on some happier note, okay, here's some more. Again, see, that's a picture on the left here. That's part of that property where the guy just cleared out every tree on the property. So if you want to have information regarding the repeal bill, it is Senate Bill 596 and House Bill 6063 that have been submitted a couple weeks ago. Going on now on a happy note, Heritage Tree Program. This is a program that we've had now for a couple of years. We started accepting applications in 2019. Basically, the Heritage Tree Program is a program that the city created to recognize trees of significant value, significant height, shape, size, species, trees that were, documenting trees that were planted as public memorials or in memory of a person or an event. We've noticed that we don't have any of that kind of information. So we're trying to go ahead and start to collect it and create a database of special trees in our city. Hopefully, the plan is to create some sort of a wayfinder map, brochures or informational locations, whether it be a site, a website, or something like that, where people can go, tourists can go, locals can go, to learn about the unique trees that we have and to learn about the stories of some of these trees. I know we have right now, I think there are 19 trees that are in the Heritage Tree Program, of which 16 are from different properties. Some of those trees include the Mamey tree that's over at the old fire station on Grinnell. That tree is 105 years old. The Mamey tree, the cool story with that tree is that It's sort of the grandparent or the grandparent of all the meme trees that are in South Florida. That was from the original stick that came over. So that's neat. There's 3 sapodilla trees over at Elizabeth and Southern Street. Well, historically, that area of Old Town was known as, that's where the sapodilla grove was. And you can still see lots of large sapodilla trees in that whole block area. There are several mango trees that are on the list that are from the Virginia, Grinnell, Packer, Windsor area. Well, that historically, if you look on the old maps, was where the mango plantation was. So it's really kind of neat to see some of the stories that are associated with the Heritage Tree Program. We also have trees that were planted in dedication of our fallen heroes, like the Eric Biscup, the bench and trees planted at Bayview Park. There's the tree, the lignum vitae, that was planted for Frankie Gutierrez, a firefighter who died of cancer. And there was another autograph tree that was planted for another police officer that's closer in between the front doors of the fire station and the police department. I know that there's numerous other trees that have been planted in memory of other people. And what we want to do is get that documented. So basically, we accept applications from January 1st to June 30th. So right now, the applications are open. Applications can be found on the city website under Planning Department, Urban Forestry Division, under links, or you can email me and we'll send it to you. Anybody can submit an application for a heritage tree, but it will not be put on the list until we have a form signed by the property owner that accepts the nomination. So basically, a person submits the application to my office with any information they want to give me. Then after June 30th, I take that information, I start doing research. I do a site inspection, determine what the condition of that tree is. And then I submit my report and the application to the Tree Commission for their review and approval. Here are some of the photos of some of the trees that have been recognized through the Heritage Tree Program. Now, one of the questions that does come up when we talk about the Heritage Tree Program is, how is this different from the Champion Tree Program? Well, the Champion Tree Program is a program with the state of Florida through the Forestry Department. And that has very specific requirements of size, where they measure the canopy size, which tree species, which tree is the largest in what town, and this, that, and the other. You have champions, grand champions, national champions, honorable mentions, but they're more scientific detailed in their assessment of what is a champion tree. So the Heritage Tree Program hopefully will incorporate all of the champion trees that are located in the city of Key West, but see, it doesn't have all that hard scientific detailed knowledge and information required as part of the program. So which I think is nice, because again, where we can recognize some of these special trees. So if you look on the photos here, down in the middle in the center, that gnarly tree right there, that is the national champion green buttonwood tree. It just actually had a limb break off of it, so I need to do some correction pruning on it, but that is a grand champion. Another tree that's listed, it's also a grand champion, is the mahogany tree over at St. Mary's, and the tamarind tree that's over in front of the school entrance at the Mary Immaculate. So we are slowly getting all these incorporated. So hopefully this year with the 2021 applications, we'll see more and more trees get submitted to the Heritage Tree Program. And basically to conclude, I think my presentation, I've touched base on everything I wanted to talk about. I like this photo from Google Earth. It shows all the nice green. And I think it's important that, one generation plants the trees and another lives in its shades. What we do now to plant trees, which is part of the whole tree program, the tree ordinance and the tree commission, what we do, it's like, all right, a tree is going to be cut down, but let's get replacements planted. Let's make sure we are getting things planted so that we have the next generation gets the shade. So with that, I'll answer any questions, and thank you very much for having me here. And
Thank you, Karen. I don't know if folks have questions or not. For those of you that joined late, just to let you know, this has been recorded, this session, and it will be posted on the Tropical Garden website And Karen said she's also going to post it on the city website as well. So Karen, thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate it. And we're glad to share this with folks in the future. So it's a great resource to have available and share with the public and all those interested in the tree canopy of Key West.
Thank you very much, and thank you for recording this.
I don't see any questions.
I don't either.
All righty.
You all have a great day then.
Thank you much, and everybody have a great day.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.